afternoon, guys. Thanks for joining me for, what part are we? Part 4 now. We're going from Warhorse to Camp Boom, or FLB Gabe. So yeah, that one was probably about 5-10 miles down the road. Still located in the Sunni Triangle, and it was called Camp Boom because it was always under attack of some sort. So it was a much smaller, much more personal camp, occupied by 318 whenever I was there, National Guard unit. We were always, attached to some other unit. So, yeah. Initial visits were visits. The initial station there was, I can't remember time frames. I'm trying to remember where we were staying. I think we stayed in the same place each. No, there was 2 different visits. No, actually, we were stationed there like 4 times, but we had two different places that we stayed. I got pictures of one, and that's the picture with all the cots lined up in a row. That's in Bakuba, which is Gabe. I always called it Gabe. It was named after Sergeant First Class Gabriel of 318, who was killed by an IED. I remember we didn't attend that memorial, but was present for it in our duties, and it was I don't know how to describe it to you. The whole service started out with a normal formation roll call, and when they got to his name, they called it 3 times, and of course he didn't answer, and then they started to play taps. It's very emotional even now. That happened while we were there, on our first station. There was no bathrooms. It was very basic. Eventually, we got all the fancy stuff, but at the moment, no. We got to play with our radar toy and have breakfast in an old run-down building. It used to be one of it actually used to be an air base, a small air base. So from there we were always going between Warhorse and there because they were very close, and Warhorse was the larger camp, had more supplies, and we had other assets there. We also made trips to, I think it was Tikrit, shopping trips, so to speak. I remember seeing my first, this may have been much later, but that's one of those trips is where I remember seeing Taco Bell. I hadn't seen that in months. It was nothing like you'd see over here, clearly, but usually when we went shopping like that, we got the basic supplies: Pringles, Pop-Tarts, things like that. Care packages arrive all the time with beef jerky. Very good, very good. We made a trip to Baghdad, with some other unit going there, clearly not on our own. We were too small. And I did get to see the palace from a distance. Didn't get to use the golden toilets. met up with some old guys that I went to AIT with from a different unit there. Came back, and I do remember at some point while we were stationed at Dr. we had I received news. Clearly I know the guys cared for my feelings, so I received news that my bunkmate from the barracks had a misfire in his M16. He survived, but it shot up through his chin and kind of blew the lower portion of his face away. That was devastating. I mean, he was my bunkmate in the barracks in Garrison before we got deployed for probably 3 or 4 months, because I was only there for maybe a year before we get deployed. So they made sure that I knew and kept me updated on his condition. So he got evacuated back to Germany, I think. Surgeries. I mean, that's all his deal. It's not my story to tell. But my end of the story was, I was concerned that he didn't make it, and I lost a friend, but I did not. But he was summarily discharged, medically discharged after that. Whenever we all finally returned at the end of the story. The story there is he did survive, but I at the time did not know. So you start thinking about your own morality and the guys around you, and very emotionally driving. I think they might have given me a shift off. I'm not sure. I know they weren't very fond of him, but they were fond of me, apparently. So Camp Boom was rough. So the stories are not ending there. That is not the end of the story. Summarily, I like that word now. After a few months being there, we got pulled away to a very small post down over by the Syrian border, and we were only there for like a week. But it was very, very barren. And I'll throw some pictures in here to show you just how barren it was. I don't remember the name of it. I do know that it was very small, very, very nothing there, as you can see. Give you a second to just look at those. And then we got our call back